Hi, I'm John Perkins.
I'm Craig Bell. A little boy stepped out in his backyard one day with his baseball and his baseball bat and proudly proclaimed, "I am the greatest batter of all times." He threw the ball up and swung and missed. He threw the ball up again in frustration and swung and missed. The third time he threw the ball up and swung and missed again, and then sat the bat down solemnly and proudly proclaimed, "Turns out I am the greatest pitcher of all times." Sometimes we have to reevaluate who the greatest is.
We'll talk about that on Take 5.
Food for the soul, helping you to thrive. 5 minutes to renew your mind. Take 5.
So in John chapter 4, Jesus is talking to the woman at the well, and he asked her for a drink, and they didn't have no dealings with one another. And Jesus told her, if you would have known the gift of God and who it was that said unto thee, give me a drink, thou would have asked him of the drink for a drink of the living water. And the woman said, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence hast thou have living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? So she didn't understand who she was talking to. She didn't know that was the Christ, that she didn't know that was the Messiah. And she was saying, how are you going to give me a drink? You don't even have nothing to drink with. And then she asked him the question, are thou greater than Jacob, which gave us this well? So she knew of Jacob and how special that Jacob was, but she didn't realize who she was talking to. She didn't realize she was talking to the Messiah.
Right. She had him on a lower level than Jacob because she didn't realize who she was talking to. And a lot of people today bring Jesus down to a lower level. They actually bring the value of Jesus down. They don't value him as highly as they should. There's many things in our life that are greater than Jesus, like this woman thought Jacob was greater. Some people think their job is greater.
And like their kids' sports, how that become greater than church.
Yeah, and how about people's opinions?
Yes.
Sometimes people put the value of what someone thinks of them over what Jesus thinks.
And I think that's why we see a decline in the numbers in our churches, is because people's priorities are not right. The things comes more important to them than serving the Lord.
Yes, and here's one for you, John. Worship can become greater than Jesus.
Yes.
She was actually all into this worship thing without a knowledge of who Jesus was, without even knowing Jesus personally. But she was all into the worship. It's like, strike up the praise team, John, because, we like the feeling, the groove, the, hey, bring it on, man, the place to be. But we don't really know Jesus. And worship can become greater than Jesus. Jesus says if you don't worship in spirit and in truth, you haven't worshiped at all.
That's exactly right, Craig. At one point, Jesus even told her, you don't even know what you worship.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with good praise band or some, good music while we're worshiping God. But we just need to make sure that worship doesn't become the greater aspect than who we worship. We put all our focus on the worshipers rather than the one that we worship.
The Apostle Paul said that men would begin to worship the creation more than the Creator.
It would almost be like John saying, as a great pianist played a piece on the piano, wow, that piano is amazing. That piano makes a great song. That piano plays some beautiful music. When in reality, the artist at the keyboard is making some great music. The piano can only play what the artist allows. We can focus on the instruments of worship and miss the awesomeness of God.
Exactly, Craig. In Matthew chapter 12 and in verse 6, Jesus was talking here, and he was saying that there was one greater than the temple. And he said there was one that was greater in the midst of the temple, talking about himself. So they was all focused upon the church building, the temple, and Jesus was trying to tell them that the one that was in the midst of the temple was more important than the temple itself. And in the same chapter, the Queen of the South, it says she came from a long ways to see the wisdom of Solomon. And Jesus said, there's one greater than Solomon. And then also in the same chapter, it talks about the preaching of Jonah to the people in Nineveh that they believed. And he said, there's one greater than Jonah.
Here's another one for you, John. We sometimes put our knowledge of God above the value of knowing God. This lady knew all about the Messiah. She could tell you all the details, but she did not know the Messiah personally. In our day and age, look, we put value all the time on what we know rather than on who we know. What's your degree? What's your diploma on the wall? Not who do you know? Do you know Jesus? That's the greater value.
That's right.
So how about you? Have you reevaluated what's really great in your life? Maybe you should take another look at who is the greatest.